Before we hop into the video, we are doing a giveaway. We're giving away $1,000 worth of Amazon gift cards and an iPhone 11 Pro. To enter, make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment down below something interesting that you found in the video. And to better your chances, come back to future videos that we release and do the same thing over there.
Becoming an NBA player is one of the most popular dreams kids have growing up today. The fame and adoration are one thing, but another reason is because NBA players are generally among the highest paid people in the world. Stars like Steph Curry and James Harden earn an astronomical $40 million plus every year, while even obscure bench rookies are paid the NBA's minimum salary of nearly $900,000, the highest of any major sport. It's safe to say no matter who you are in the NBA, you got it made financially, right? Well, as it turns out, no, not by a long shot. The cold hard truth is that no matter how much money you earn, if you don't manage it properly, you will eventually end up back to square one or possibly even worse off than you started. There are also always just plain old unforeseen circumstances and misfortunes that can befall any of us, regardless of wealth. Though it seems to many like it would be impossible, there are in fact numerous former NBA players who through mistakes, misfortunes, or both have squandered their wealth and ended up in debt or even out on the street. On the other hand, there are amazing rags to riches stories in the NBA as well. Players who grew up with nothing, not even a place to live, and extraordinary wealth. Here are 7 NBA players that were homeless. Dennis Rodman, the iconic championship-era Bulls forward, thought by many to be the greatest defensive player of all time, grew up in a poor neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. Believe it or not, Rodman was barely even interested in basketball growing up. After graduating high school, he took a job working as a janitor in a local airport. After Dennis was caught shoplifting and spent the night in jail, his mother kicked him out of the house. Now without a job or a place to live, Rodman miraculously hit a growth spurt and decided to try basketball as a way to keep from living on the streets. Rodman had very little basketball experience, but his size and natural athleticism, and most of all, his relentless energy made him a valuable player in college basketball. Rodman would eventually go on to be drafted by the Detroit Pistons in 1986, and the rest is history. Despite turning his life around and going from having nothing to being a sports icon worth millions of dollars, Rodman apparently has never even really liked basketball. He just happened to be good at it and desperately needed the money. Derrick Rose. 2011 MVP Derrick Rose may be a millionaire today, but he grew up extremely poor. Rose was actually born in the same city he would eventually rise to superstardom in, Chicago, Illinois. The youngest son of 4, Derrick was raised along with his older brothers by a single mother on the South Side, in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the entire country. The Rose family never had a stable housing situation during Derrick's childhood, but with the support of his mother and older siblings, Derrick's very strong aptitude for basketball was nevertheless allowed to flourish. By the time he was in high school, Derrick Rose was already under the national spotlight, ranked as one of the best upcoming players in the world. In college, Rose led the University of Memphis all the way to the NCAA championship game as a freshman. While the team failed to win the grand prize that year, Rose's destiny was set. The following year in 2008, Rose was picked first in the NBA draft by his beloved hometown team, the Chicago Bulls. Despite later struggles with injuries, the story of Derrick Rose's rise from poverty to hometown hero is undeniably inspiring. To think that a kid who undoubtedly grew up a Chicago Bulls fan watching Michael Jordan would eventually get to play on the Bulls himself and become the second and only other MVP to play for Chicago is simply the stuff legends are made of. Vin Baker. The story of Vin Baker looked for a while like a full-blown tragedy, but thankfully, there's a bright silver lining at the end. Vin Baker was a promising young star on the Milwaukee Bucks in the 1990s. He even played in several All-Star games. However, Vin struggled for years with alcoholism and his physical fitness began to deteriorate as he got older. He was traded to the Boston Celtics in the new millennium, but unfortunately, Vin's drinking seemed to only get worse. His coaches eventually noticed and confronted him about it, eventually leading to Vin's dismissal from the team. Although Baker managed a few brief stints on other teams here and there in the 2000s, he eventually left the league for good in 2006. His health had continued to deteriorate, and without basketball in his life, his drinking problem became even more severe. Having descended into full-blown addiction, Baker sold his Olympic gold medal and eventually lost his home to foreclosure. However, after hitting rock bottom, Vin was able to rebound. In the following decade, he managed to quit drinking and land a job as the assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. He now says that his dark chapter in his life serves as a valuable lesson for him moving forward. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is arguably one of the most gifted players in the history of basketball. He is also one of the wealthiest. With a net worth of $170 million, KD is ranked as the 12th wealthiest NBA player of all time. However, this wasn't always the case. Kevin Durant was born near Washington, D.C. in 1988. His father deserted the family when Kevin was still an infant, and he and his siblings were raised by his mother in a very poor neighborhood. Durant has stated that he and his family had to move frequently, never obtaining a stable home, and that his mother had to work tirelessly to support him and his siblings. Growing up, Durant played alongside several other future NBA stars in the Amateur Athletics Union, and it was here that he found a kind of father figure in his coach Charles Craig. Tragically, however, Craig was murdered outside of a bar in Maryland at the age of 35. Another victim of the dangerous environment the young Durant was forced to grow up in, and another tragedy in his life. After Craig's death, Durant began wearing the number 35 to honor his beloved coach. Regardless of how you feel about KD, nobody can deny how successful he has become, and this is all the more amazing when you consider his humble beginnings. Jimmy Butler. One of the most incredible stories in the entire NBA is the story of Jimmy Butler, whose success in basketball came against all odds and completely transformed not only his life, but his entire family. Jimmy Butler was born in Houston, Texas. His father abandoned the family when Jimmy was still a newborn, but unlike Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler didn't have a loving or hard-working mother to fill in the void his father left. Instead, she kicked Jimmy out the house when he was just 13 years old. This forced him to sleep on friends' couches, and the young Butler had to move from house to house extremely frequently. Despite having no home to call his own and virtually no parental support, Butler poured himself into basketball and climbed his way up the ranks, eventually landing a scholarship to play for Marquette. Butler was drafted by the Chicago Bulls in 2011, and even though he wasn't initially recognized as a standout all-star, just like he had all his life, Jimmy Butler worked extremely hard and eventually began to capture the world's attention. Most amazing of all, Butler still says he has a relationship with his mother and father. He says, "I don't hold grudges. I still talk to my family, my mom, my father. We love each other. That's never going to change." Delonte West. Like many other players on this list, Delonte West had an exceptional NBA career. He played in the league for over 10 years alongside some of the game's greatest players and on the roster of some of the best teams at the time. However, West has unfortunately struggled with mental health issues throughout his life. West has used the money he's earned to buy both his parents' homes and support his family, something that should be commended in any circumstance. But he's also had a difficult time managing his wealth in general. For instance, during the 2011 NBA lockout, while part of the Boston Celtics, West had to apply for jobs working at a local Home Depot just to support himself. After retiring from basketball in 2015, Delonte West was captured on camera a year later in Houston, Texas, and in Temple Hills, Maryland. Many were instantly very concerned about West's appearance and the fact that he was apparently living in the street. However, upon hearing these rumors, West vehemently denied them. He said he was merely helping someone else who was homeless and that he himself still has a home to live in. We're all hoping and praying this is true, as unlike the Vin Baker story, there is no apparent silver lining to be found here otherwise. Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is one of the brightest talents in the NBA today, and like many NBA stars, his rise to stardom was seemingly improbable and miraculous. Growing up in Salisbury, North Carolina, Williamson played multiple sports in addition to basketball, including soccer and football. However, by the time he was 5 years old, Zion already knew that his true calling was to be a basketball superstar. He started getting up at 5 in the morning every day in order to work out, and in no time, Zion Williamson managed to become one of the most hyped young players in the entire country. Through the right combination of talent and dedication, Zion worked hard enough to earn the attention of virtually every NCAA basketball organization in the country. After considering his limitless options, Williamson committed to Duke University, where he instantly became the undisputed best college basketball player in the world. From there, it was an easy path to being the #1 pick in the 2019 NBA draft. Zion's meteoric rise to basketball excellence was as fast and explosive as his play on the court, and now the New Orleans Pelicans have him on a $10 million a year contract. This means Zion Williamson has managed to become one of the wealthiest 20-year-olds alive today. Thanks for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you like more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. Feel free to drop a like and leave us a comment sharing your thoughts as well. We'll see you next time.